After years of planning and no shortage of debate, the Dwight D. Eisenhower Memorial is scheduled to open this Thursday in Washington. In the weeks ahead, as Election Day nears and America decides, we'll be taking a closer look at our presidents, their campaigns, and the election process. Rita Braver starts us off.
The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory.
Just a stone's throw from the U.S. Capitol, a park nestles among museums and office buildings. 20 years in the making, it's a new memorial dedicated to a president who is garnering new esteem, Dwight D. Eisenhower. So, your first time here?
It's my first time. I'm quite overwhelmed by it.
We visited the memorial with Susan Eisenhower, the president's granddaughter.
I'm really thrilled.
A foreign policy analyst who has spent years studying her grandfather's career.
Granddad used to say, don't let them put me on a horse. So he's not on a horse. He's leading men, which I think is far more appropriate.
Indeed, as president, Ike, as he was known, is flanked by both military and civilian aides.
General Dwight D. Eisenhower and his deputy commanders chart the liberation of a lost continent.
And as commander of Allied forces in Europe in World War II, he's portrayed in a scene based on real life.
The commander visited the airborne troops who would lead the invasion.
Visiting troops just before the launch of the D-Day invasion on June 6, 1944.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months.
Susan Eisenhower's new book focuses on her grandfather's strength of character. For example,
this is the supreme moment of invasion. This is frontal assault.
Though he was confident the D-Day mission would succeed,
He wrote a note to himself that said, in case this operation fails, the responsibility is mine and mine alone.
They hit the beach, as I recall, about 7:25. That's what
Eisenhower himself explained that note as he returned to Normandy with CBS newsman Walter Cronkite in 1964.
I was the one responsible for the decision to go, and all the fault belongs to me, and that's that.
And I was knocked off my pins because the way he managed the war.
Renowned architect Frank Gehry says he'd never really studied Eisenhower until he was invited to compete for the chance to design the new memorial. But then
I had to do it. I wanted to do it. I couldn't stop.
Gehry's original winning design, based on guidance from a commission appointed by Congress, bears little resemblance to the memorial now built. At its center was a statue of Ike as a boy in Kansas, looking out on a series of metal scrims, or tapestries as Gehry calls them, featuring key events in his life.
I think we were perplexed by the design because
the family was not pleased.
The idea that a young boy would be looking at his future and wishing, to become commander of the most devastating war in human history? I don't think he was dreaming to do that.
How did you respond to that?
Well, I had to agree with them because, they lived with it. They knew better than me.
Finally, after years of wrangling between the commission and the family, it took former Secretary of State James Baker to broker a deal. Now there's just one large metal tapestry representing Pointe du Hoc, the 100-foot cliff on the coast of Normandy, scaled by Army Rangers under German fire on D-Day.
But the funny thing is, how do you make a tapestry of Pointe du Hoc? It's just a big chunk of land in it. Anyway, I did the drawing, and the family liked it. There we are.
Another person who likes the new design is Washington Post art critic Philip Kennicott, who saw it first at night.
And the lights were just coming up. on the tapestry, this big, long, metal-woven, welded, kind of abstract rendering of the beaches at Normandy. And it was gorgeous.
Kennicott also likes the statue of Ike as a boy, now set off to the side.
It is going to be a surprise to people to see a rendering of a heroic figure as a child. That's just not something you see.
It isn't. It's Lincoln on his throne in the Lincoln Memorial, or it's just this massive obelisk that represents Washington.
Do you think Eisenhower is deserving of a memorial as these things go?
I think his legacy was enormously consequential. His stock has risen very much in the last decades. The civil rights elements, the role he played in integrating important institutions in American life.
Today, there is special resonance to Eisenhower's ordering federal troops to Little Rock, Arkansas in 1957. He sent them to protect 9 black students entering Central High School as jeering crowds tried to block their way.
Mob rule can not be allowed to override the decisions of our courts.
Many historians now rank Eisenhower in the top tier of American presidents. Still, Philip Kennicott reminds us, views can change.
With time, I think we're realizing that idea of an absolutely great man is just not there anymore.
We're reevaluating George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, 2 of the pillars of the American Revolution, because they were slave owners.
We're reevaluating Lincoln, too. Politicians are never saintly.
Supreme Commander General Eisenhower.
But Susan Eisenhower has no doubt that her grandfather's legacy, both as general and as president, should be honored.
He had such an extraordinary career. It went on for 50 years. He is a man, I think, whose values and principles can be an inspiration for rising generations, and that's what memorials are for, after all.
We'll all go with President. You like Ike,